area.
Right. So when they become grandparents, and the kids come back, I guess.
Yeah. Well, actually, Hannah and her boyfriend. Hannah's been helping with Sharon's care.
Okay. Yeah. I read your updates and.
Well, I haven't updated in a while. A lot of it has been a little depressing in the past few weeks.
Right.
So,
But you're a very strong man, Stan. 'Cause I
well,
really
it's
admire
like
you.
there's no other option.
No, I'm totally the same way. I've had to go through a lot of those things.
Yeah.
So, like with my sister, like just a
Oh,
couple
my
of years
God,
ago, that was tough. But mostly because of how it affected my mom, and it's continuing because it's like psychologically, I think she cannot.
Your mom's still in Alhambra?
She's in Lake Forest, in Orange County.
Okay.
She
I know where
still
that
can't
is.
get past it, So I've been trying to move her out because she still lives in the place where it happened, and I just don't want to. That's one of the reasons why I moved up here, actually, because I knew I was going to have to support her soon.
Yeah.
So I wanted her to move in a place that was totally different.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Just a couple reminders. Please make sure your cell phones are silent or off.
I just checked it a little while ago.
Especially that one.
Lady Gaga playing in the middle, it could be fun. But even so, pictures are fine. Just please make the flash off. No actual recording, though. This is live streaming. It's also being saved on our website, so you can view it later. And otherwise, I'm going to let you guys take it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Okay, hello everyone. I'm actually not used to moderating these things. As an artist, this is kind of new for me. So this is gonna be fun. Do you hear that feedback that I'm hearing? I'll lower this.
How about me? Am I fine?
You sound good.
Yeah.
Is that better? It's a little bit better. Okay, I'll just talk quieter because I think it's really sensitive. Okay. All right. Well, I was actually kind of surprised. Not too long ago, Jim Dimonakis, who puts together Eccc, asked me to do this, and I felt honored to be a part of it because I've been a fan of Stan's work since I was a little boy. So I've been reading his work forever, and he's one of my big heroes. So I'd like to introduce Stan Sakai. He's the legendary creator of Usagi Yojimbo. And my name is Kazu. I'm an artist too. I just do comics.
Well, you should
yeah.
give some of your credit to Amulet, Copper, Harry Potter.
Yeah, and the Harry. Yeah. I draw stuff.
Yeah.
But so I'll go pretty far back. We were just talking about Nilsson Ground Thumper, and that was sort of where Usagi was born, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I had wanted to do a series called Nilsson Ground Thumper and Hermie, where Usagi's adventures take place in 17th century Japan. Nilsson's adventures take place during the same time, but in Europe, in the Scandinavian area.
Okay.
And at one point, it was going to be like an epic 2,500-page story, like a definite beginning, middle, and end. And Usagi was going to be appearing in about page 100 or 1,000. It was going to be the story of why there are funny animals, intelligent animals, why there are regular animals like horses and great beasts of burden, and the rise of the humans.
Right.
And it was going to be a global. I mean, Nilsson was going to travel all over and finally wind up in the Japans, and where he meets up with Usagi. And they're going to have the final stand in a castle, much like I envision the Abbey at Mont Saint Michel. Just in the Emerald Coast of France, they have the huge abbey on this rock right off the shore, and there's going to be the last stand, and everyone's going to be wiped out. It was going to be good. But once it started Usagi, I fell in love with the character and pretty much abandoned Nilsson for a while.
Right. Wow.
But there is a Nilsson Ground Thumper hardcover that just came out from Dark Horse that collects all the Nilsson stories.
Well, yeah, I love the fact that you incorporate so much, not only geography but history in your work, and I think that's something that's sometimes missing from a lot of comics. And I think it's one of the things that I noticed in yours pretty immediately was that I can sense that you were a student of history.
Oh, I love history.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, I draw comics for kids as well, and I think the educational value of the comics is a really important component of it.
Definitely.
You know, and so I was actually learning a lot about Japan reading Usagi when I was young, because I was born in Japan, but I grew up here.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Well, I was born in Japan, but grew up in Hawaii.
Pretty much here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, well, that's actually kind of like Japan. It's halfway.
Well, yeah, a lot of Japanese there.
Yeah. But and your work actually has a profound impact on mine in one other way too. It was actually your work along with Eastman and Laird when they did Turtles, when they did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back when it came out. It was really the excitement that came from the independent that spirit of comics affected a lot of my friends. We were like these punk rock kids, and you guys were the punk rock guys. You were the punks in comics. I mean, you know, obviously you're a punk, right? No, but the spirit spirit of independence was you know, vibrant in your work, and it. And my friend was so inspired by your work, he actually became a black belt. Oh. Trained to become a black. He decided he liked your work so much that he was actually a better cartoonist than me at the time, but he was so into Usagi, I think, that he decided to actually be a martial artist.
Oh, wow.
So he followed Usagi's actual path. And actually, if he had not introduced me to American comics through Usagi, I would not be a comic artist today.
Oh.
Yeah. So thank you.
No, well, thank you.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, back then, this is 1984. That's when Usagi and the Turtles were first published. They were published the same year, almost the same month, I think.
I almost completely associate the two as like I almost feel like they're in the same world, you know, because they kind of existed.
Well, they
across,
at that time there were very few black and white comics. There was Cerebus, ElfQuest, Mage, Grendel, maybe one or two others, but you know, black and white comics are very rare. So when they came up with the Turtles and I came up with Usagi, we started corresponding, you know, kind of encouraging each other.
Right.
And it was through that we had the friendship. And then it was at a San Diego Comic-Con that Peter and I were just talking around, and he said, "You want an Usagi toy?" And I said, "Sure," you know. So that's how Usagi crossed over into the Turtles merchandising and animation and everything.
Nice, yeah. And also the Zarek grant, you know, came from, is it Kevin Eastman?
No, that was Peter.
It was Peter, okay.
Peter.
Yeah, and the Zarek grant was like a big deal for a lot of us young cartoonists trying to, you know, find a place. Yeah. So, you know, that from that little world, so much so much was born from it, you know. So actually, thinking back on it, one of the first times I really got into your work and Jeff Smith's work was actually when you guys were on the Trilogy tour. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about
the Trilogy tour. Well, I was on the second Trilogy tour, Trilogy 2.
Yeah.
Basically, for the first tour, it was Jeff, Charles Vess, and Linda Medley toured the country, and they wanted to up it a notch for the second year. So they invited Joe Thompson, Mark Crilly, and myself to tour with them to a number of conventions. And someone had the idea to make an entire environment. So we built a 16-foot fiberglass chicken wire cloth tree that we would have to put together at every convention. And we had a dozen huge, 8 and 12-foot crates, and it took us a full 8 hours to put it up and bring it back down. And it was my most aggravating and my favorite year in comic books. It was great. I mean, we did a lot of work. We met at Charles Vess's hometown, and he rented us a warehouse that we built everything up in. And the first convention we were going to was Heroes Con, because it's near where Charles lives. So we made these huge boxes, huge crates, like I said, 12-foot crates. And the first loading truck comes in, and one crate fits on there, and that's it, and it sticks out. So just the logistics of getting everything together and shipping everything, that's where Vijaya came in. And she, Vijaya is Jeff Smith's wife, and she is a wonder at negotiation, contracts, and Jeff is the creative part of their team, but Vijaya is so savvy about business. Without Vijaya, they wouldn't be, Jeff would not be where he is.
Yeah, the engine. I always thought of you and Jeff Smith and those guys as like sort of on a pirate ship, and you were sort of sailing. You guys were sailing out into these rough seas in the comics industry, where you were the only ones that, to me, I felt like were writing comics that took a lot from literature. Or as much from literature as from the world of comics.
Oh yeah, like Linda Medley's Castle Waiting was directly from literature, French, fairy tales and everything. Charles Vess's, his stuff is always very classical. And
so, as far as literary works, do you feel do you take influence from a lot of classic literature in your newer works in Usagi Yojimbo, or is it maybe just because I know there's obviously the the Japanese legends.
When you talk about the literature, right now I'm doing a 6-issue miniseries called Senso, Usagi Yojimbo Senso, that is directly derived from English literature. It sort of starts off with the final. It takes place about 20 years or 15 years in Usagi's future, from his current continuity, and it's the final battle between the Geishu clan and the huge evil in Usagi's world, Loite Kiji. By then, this time, Usagi and his friend Gen are part of the Geishu clan. They've joined Tomoe and the other Geishu members. And they have the final battle. Everyone's dressed in full samurai armor, and they have this huge war. The armies fighting each other, and then suddenly, the aliens attack. And that is from H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And my premise is, what if the Martians had sent 3 scout ships a couple of years before the attack on England in H.G. Wells' book? And so you've got these tripods with battling samurai in armor, ninja versus these octopus creatures, and it's a lot of fun. It's not historically accurate, but it is fun. I'm having a blast with this.
Oh, that's great. And actually, you bringing that up, it reminds me of like the power of the cartoon to force juxtaposition. And the conflict of those things, like of 2 elements that don't seem at all related, can exist so well in a cartoon. Evan Dorkin's Milk and Cheese was actually one of my big influences when I was in high school. Because of that,
gone bad,
I just felt like this comic does not care about what anybody thinks. And as a high schooler, it was really empowering, I think. And Usagi actually felt that way too. There was that sense of just like it just felt empowered in that way, like a teenager would just feel like this is what it is, and it exists. And I love that about Usagi. So that's really, I'm excited about the new book.
Then after Senso is finished, I'll continue on with the regular Usagi series, and we've already published more than 200 issues of the Usagi Yojimbo comics. So I've been doing this for a long time.
That's amazing.
30 years now.
How many pages is that? Account
I don't know, about 6,000 Usagi pages, maybe more.
Yeah, I just got to about 1,500 pages on Amulet, and I was just like feeling pretty good. And then I realized that you were out there doing it, and really you had been running quite a marathon.
Yeah, well, they say Jack Kirby has done what, 50,000 pages, and but Osamu Tezuka has done 150,000.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know, they've been.
And at what point in the creation of Usagi Yojimbo, or in making it, did you feel that this was going to be that thing, the one big?
I guess when he got his own series.
Yeah.
Before then, I was pretty much just thinking month to month, like what story can I do next month? After he got his own series, I was thinking, what big storyline can I start building up for that I'll tell, like, 2 years from now?
Right.
There's one story, Grass Cutter, that took about 5 years to research.
Right.
That I was laying down groundwork for about 2 years before I actually drew out the story.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
Now I can do that. I mean, before then, I was just thinking month to month. And people ask me if I wasn't doing Usagi, what would I be doing? And I said, I have no idea, because I have no other job skills.
That's not true. That's definitely not true. Speaking of which, how long have you been lettering Gru? Because that's another...
Gru, 35 years now. I just finished the first issue of Gru, Friends and Foes. It's a 12-issue miniseries from Dark Horse. And before then, there was a Gru meets Conan that I was not involved in, but that's finished now.
Okay.
I'm not sure when it will be published.
And how did you, I know you and Sergio pretty well. I never asked you guys, how did you guys meet?
I found his name in the phone book.
What?
I found his name in the phone book. I had a friend, he said, oh yeah, Sergio Aragonés lives up in California, in Los Angeles. So, and I looked it up, yeah, his name's there. So I wrote him a letter and introduced myself. I dropped my friend's mutual friend's name that Sergio had met once. And Sergio called me up and said, hey, yeah, let's get together. There's an organization called CAPS, Comics Arts Professional Society. He invited me to a meeting, and we've been friends ever since.
That's wonderful.
And as far as lettering goes, I had been teaching calligraphy to just a few friends, church groups, whoever wants to join. And he heard that, oh, I can do calligraphy, so I must be a good letterer. And he asked me to do lettering for his new comic book, Gru the Wanderer. And I said, oh yeah, I'm a terrific letterer. But I had never lettered a comic book in my life. I had no idea how to go about it. But it just so happened that that very month, Todd Klein, in a magazine called Comic Scene, had a step-by-step look at how to do hand lettering the Todd Klein way. So I just followed what Todd told me to do. But if you look at the very first issue of Gru the Wanderer, you see each page has a different lettering look, because I was trying out different pens at that time. And, no one seemed to notice, because the art wasn't that good anyway. But no, I'm just joking. But yeah, I pretty much learned on the job.
Wow. And
even before I started lettering Gru, Sergio was recommending me to other people. And so that's how I got started working with Stan Lee when I was doing the Spider-Man Sunday newspaper strips, doing the lettering for that. And, because if I had Sergio's recommendation, I must be good.
Well, if you guys don't know Sergio, he's just the most wonderful man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually how I know you guys. I mean, on a personal level, because Stan actually invited me to be a part of CAPS. And it's one of those unsung groups. I feel like CAPS has had a tremendous impact on the recent history of comics. And very few people know about it, but the Comic Artists Professional Society actually a long time ago put together a book called How to Draw Comics How to Draw Tips by the Top Cartoonists. Yeah, Sergio was in there, so was Mort Drucker, who was a lot of my favorite cartoonists at the time. Had put about a couple of pages of how they did things. And
they were just random tips, like your favorite tips.
Yeah, and it was so poorly put together, because it was it looked like it was done overnight. Like they just got information and they just packed it in. But it was the best how to draw book I had ever seen at the time as a kid. It felt like I was actually getting to read the minds of the masters. And if it wasn't for that book, I don't think I would have drawn so many comics.
Also, it wasn't a beginning drawing book. It was aimed at pros.
It was definitely
like I said, it was their favorite tips that they, and they're assuming that you're a pro too. So.
Right, but I think a kid assumes he's a pro.
Yeah. No, it was
When
very
he comes in.
practical.
So it's
practical
actually
tips,
the way to teach.
Yeah.
You know, you want to teach. You just if they can't understand something, you just explain it. You know, over time.
And some of them were really simple, like basic, straightforward. Like in the West, we read from left to right. So stage your drawings that way, or stage your action that way. Very simple tips like that, but they're very, very good tips.
Yeah, right. So
yeah,
Stan
CAP started because from Sergio Aragonés, Mark Evanier, and Don Rico, who used to do the old Golden Age Daredevil comics. They were just talking, and they said, we have animation guilds. We need something for cartoonists.
Right.
There's Writers Guild, Animator Guilds, but nothing just for cartoonists. And it's a purely social organization.
Right.
And it's because so many of us just work at home by ourselves. We never get to see others. And it was at an early meeting that Jack Kirby had met Ramon Arambula for the first time. And Ramon said, "Oh yeah, I draw Mickey Mouse comics. Like you do the newspaper strips." And he said, "Oh, what do you do, Jack?" "Oh, I drew porno comics." And with a straight face, and that's what CAPS is about, just to talk about stuff like that.
It's just a bunch of legends just hanging out like a bunch of guys and ladies, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's one of the things I miss a lot about when I moved up here and and no longer live in Los Angeles. I used to go to CAPS meetings before I had kids. I couldn't get to them, but I loved hanging out with you guys, and I thank you for inviting me to that. So thank you for your comics, first off, for them to exist. And can you talk a little bit about the recent, the Usagi?
The Sakai
tribute.
project. Well, first of all, my wife has a medical condition. She has a type 3 atypical meningioma brain tumor. It's inoperable, and the most we could hope for is that it doesn't get worse. I mean, that's the most. She won't get better, but we're hoping that it won't get worse. She pretty much requires 24-hour care. We do have insurance, but it doesn't cover everything. So CAPS organized a benefit where they came up to me and said, "We want to get a few friends to draw Usagi pictures, and we'll put them online, and we'll put them on eBay to be auctioned off." And it was picked up by Bleeding Cool and other news sites, comic book news sites, and suddenly we started getting all these requests in saying, we want to donate, and we've been getting artwork from, it's phenomenal. Art Adams' piece just went on eBay last night. Jeff Smith did a piece. You did a wonderful piece. Adam Hughes. There's besides. We've got like more than 300 Usagi pieces, plus other things. Michael Allred donated 9 Daredevil pages. One guy in Switzerland donated 40 items, including this Taranko piece, about 8 Roy Krenkel sketches, beautiful pieces, and they're all being auctioned. As far as the Sakai Project book goes, Dark Horse is publishing many of the Usagi themed drawings into a hardcover book that will be out in July. And, it's a phenomenal undertaking. And everything is done by volunteers. Bill Morrison, who, many people know him from The Simpsons, is doing the editorial work. We've got Tone and Steve doing the grunge work where they just gather things together, And it's even Dark Horse is foregoing any of their, is not taking any cuts. All their profits are given back to Sharon and myself. So, we're just amazed at the outpouring of support we've gotten through the comic book and artist community. And those people, we've got a lot of people saying that, I don't draw, I'm just a fan, how can we donate? So CAP set up a donation site, and, we're just overwhelmed.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
But and the book started off as a 100-page book Then it grew to 120 pages. Now I think it's at 160 pages, which is the biggest it can, the binding would support.
Well, I think it's going to be beautiful, and I
Yeah.
saw a lot of the artwork too.
Oh, the artwork is
It's pretty
phenomenal.
phenomenal, yeah.
And we got a lot from places I never expected. Lots from one from Macedonia, which is just beautiful.
It's amazing, and that's also amazing because you from reading a lot of your posts and your writings, you've traveled to so many places, and actually. Here, I'll tell you a story. I was in Italy not too long ago, a few years ago. That's actually before I had kids, so I guess it's quite a while ago. But when I was in Italy with Amy, I think it was the folks at Luca and my publisher there. They were talking about like you being the preeminent, like the greatest American comic artist. Like they were saying, like we need to have Stan Sakai. Do you know Stan Sakai? I was like, I kind of do. He's like a god here.
I'm like Jerry Lewis and Friends.
Yeah, I guess I was, but they just loved your work so much. I mean, this is the land that had what's his name? The professor type, Geronimo Stilton. And in that world, they love that type of work. I mean, they accept it more readily than I think a lot of comic readers were.
Yeah.
I think when you were starting out, I feel like it was mostly superhero work that was out there. And so, and it's just great to see that
thank you.
that it's had such a far-reaching, influence.
Oh yeah, I'm just amazed because, like I said, I grew up in Hawaii, and back then, this is before the time of internet, before faxes. Long-distance calls cost a fortune, and I never imagined I could ever be in the comic book industry because back then everyone lived in New York. You had to live in New York or that area. So I'm just blessed that I get to do what I'm doing.
Right.
It's,
And
it's a
when they
great
say
job.
New York, I think they mean work for hire actually.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
To work for a big publisher.
Yeah.
And you guys were out striking on your own with your own properties.
Well, I think Sergio was the very first creator to own his own character. And so he
Really?
laid the groundwork. Yeah.
Wow.
Back then, he approached other publishers with Gru, and they always said, he was told, I think, by Marvel that it's illegal for a creator to own his own character. It has to be owned by a corporation. And so that can't be right. In Europe, it's everyone owns their own.
Yeah.
And finally, when Pacific Comics came about, they said, these are all creator-owned books. Dave Stevens owned Rocketeer, and Sergio owned Gru.
Right.
So I think he was the first, or one of the very first creator-owned characters.
Right. And Will Eisner was a kind of a big.
Oh yeah, Will was great.
Well, yeah, to push for creator rights
Yeah.
in that regard. My agent Judy Hansen actually represents his estate and represented Will before he passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And so I get to hear a lot about that.
Will was amazing, and the older he got, the better he got. And he was
Yeah,
always
it's kinda
going to
crazy.
the, he was going to SPX because he wanted to see what's new out there.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah, he wrote one of the introductions to my book, and it was kind of neat. I was very flattered to that book there. No, book 12, not that, but yeah, book 12, and he wrote the introduction to that, and it also won the Eisner Award.
Yeah.
So I got to get receive that Eisner Award from Will.
From Will,
And I got
great.
to publicly thank him. And I also got my Eisner signed by Will.
With a Sharpie?
Yeah, this is back when there were still plaques. I've got a few of the plaques and just one of the
Oh,
globes.
right.
But yeah.
Oh, that's great. And so your work is heavily influenced by Kurosawa's work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Kurosawa's work. Aside from Yojimbo, what is your favorite Kurosawa film?
Oh. I like the Yojimbo and Sanjuro series because I love Toshiro Mifune.
Right.
But also Ron is
But
great.
just the
Yeah.
westerns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you seen Dreams? Have you seen Kurosawa?
That's
Dreams?
his last one. I never saw that.
Oh no, I think his last one was it Madarayo?
I don't know. I did not see Dreams.
Oh
though.
yeah, I recommend it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time.
Oh.
So, we should probably just. I think you have some fans here, so
Oh,
why don't
open up the audience.
we have them ask a few questions You guys want to ask some questions here?
Oh,
Yeah, in your
with
mind,
an Usagi tattoo.
See, I told you, there's fans here.
in your mind, how much time has passed in Usagi's world from issue 1 until now?
How much time has passed in Usagi's world between issue 1 and the present? You know, I'm not sure. I would say about maybe 10 years or so, but I had a definite timeline in Usagi. It's very loose, but it's I would make references to certain things like certain battles, certain events, and these are all very loosely arranged in my mind. But someone actually did a timeline for Usagi when his birthday, when certain things happen, and he narrowed it down to the spring of a certain year, and by gosh, he was right. At that time, it was like the spring of 1606, and I had laid down, just a couple of hints, like the current shogun Ieyasu was stepping down, things like that. But and he pinpointed it to the exact month, so I was just amazed. Any other questions back there?
I love how much of the history and culture and mythology that you incorporate into Usagi, and I'm wondering if you have a favorite myth or mythological element that you've used in your work.
Oh, my favorite myth or mythological element that I've used. Well, I like folk stories, folk tales. I did one story on Momotaro, Peach Boy, that pretty much just had Usagi telling the story to a bunch of kids with him as the central character, the hero. And I like that. Other things, other stories would be based upon things that I just have to come across. Like I saw a documentary on how they made soy sauce, shoyu. And I've been using shoyu all my life, but I never thought about how they made it. So I did a lot more research on it and did a story about shoyu. Another story was on taiko drums. And it's just things that, something like even a sentence in a documentary might spark an idea. Another was just I was watching a documentary on the mountains of Japan, and there was just one line that said at the base of Mount Fuji, there's a forest whose trails are so convoluted that you go in and you get lost. You can't find your way out, and it's a place. It's a favorite place for suicides. And I thought, how cool is that? So I used that as an area in Usagi's work called the Tango Game. And incidentally, they send people out into the forest about once a year to look for corpses. I thought, wow. Yes?
Before the 47 Ronin series came out, had you thought about trying that project by yourself?
Oh, about 47 Ronin, if I want to try it out by myself. I wanted to do a series or a story arc based loosely upon the 47 Ronin story. And for those who don't know it, it was Lord Asano was assigned to, by the shogun, to be a representative to make, prepare the way for a shogun's delegation into Edo. And the person who was supposed to teach in protocol wanted to be bribed, whereas Asano refused to give any bribes. So Lord Kira, well, he wasn't Lord actually, he was an upper samurai, just abused him and ridiculed him, saying that you're just a country bumpkin. Finally, Asano got to the end of his rope and attacked Kira with a sword. Drawing a sword in the shogun's palace was a no-no, and so Asano was ordered to commit seppuku, ritualized suicide. And his lands were confiscated, his retainers were all disbanded, all his samurai became masterless, or Ronin. And, but they plotted together, and a year later, 47 of them got together and attacked Kira's mansion. And they took their revenge, cut off Kira's head, presented it to Lord Asano's grave, and in turn they were all hailed as heroes, but because they went against the shogun's orders, they were also ordered to commit seppuku, which was an honorable death back then. And yeah, I was able to go to the Sengakuji Temple I got to light incense for the Ronin, and it was very nice, very moving. And that was just before Mike Richardson, who had wanted to do the story for 25 years, approached me to do the artwork for 47 Ronin. I was a bit hesitant at first because I told him, that would mean giving up Usagi for a full year. But I'm glad I took on the project. But I have to admit, after that first issue of 47 Ronin was done, I was itching to get back to Usagi. But that book, 47 Ronin, turned out really nice. I'm very proud of it. Yes?
Do you have a definite ending with Usagi?
I did have a definite ending with Usagi. When he was part of the Nielsen Ground Thumper storyline, like I said, everyone dies. And Usagi would die a glorious death. I mean, he was... he had an eye shot out with an arrow. I had it all planned out, and it would be a glorious death, volcanoes and all that. But too bad you won't see it. There's a question back there.
Yeah, there's one more back there.
So I know in any artist's work, you're going to have parts of yourself that kind of transpose into the work. What are some things you've learned about yourself through working on this project?
What did I learn about working on Usagi Yojimbo?
No, about yourself.
Learned about myself by working on Usagi Yojimbo. I've learned that I have to be disciplined, and I learned to fear my editor. Because when she says I have a deadline on the 1st of the month, you better believe I turn in my work on the 1st of the month. There's, for Usagi's, I think, 25th anniversary, we did a full-color, hardcover graphic novel called Yokai, and it was fully painted in watercolors. And when she approached me with this, I said, well, to write, draw, paint everything, it's going to take me at least 3 months. I'll need at least 3 months. She said, I'll give you 2, and it better be in by then. I got it in 3 days ahead of deadline, and I was so proud of myself. But Dan is great.
Yeah, Dan. She's a tough lady.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
But she does have that streak of that.
Just like my agent.
Yeah.
She's a tough lady, but she's a sweetheart. We'll go there, and then back there, and then here. All right. So good.
Are we ever going to see another Turtles crossover?
I don't know. I had been asked by IDW to do like a one-shot, and I had wanted to work with Peter there. Like Peter would do the writing, and I do the artwork. But the whole thing with Sharon's health came up, and it threw everything off. So right now, I don't think so. And I had been approached by Nickelodeon or whoever owns the Turtles now, but nothing's come out of that. So probably no Turtle Usagi crossover for a while. Yeah.
So, although most of Usagi has obviously been done within the context of Western comics, Western comic books, you mentioned some of your influences were manga artists. I was wondering, are there any manga series that you currently track, and if so, do you find that they influence Usagi in any way?
I grew up with the old manga series, like Osamu Tezuka, and he influenced me a lot. I'm not that familiar with the current manga artists, except for Miyazaki, and I guess he's going back. He's quit animation to go back into drawing manga now or something.
I don't know what he's doing. He did draw some manga, but I don't think he's finishing it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, but he announced his retirement.
It's health issues. I heard. Yeah, okay. I heard it's very difficult for him. Yeah.
So I grew up in the old manga artists. And I actually got to meet Dr. Tezuka a couple of times. So and I went to Japan as part of the by invitation of Tezuka Productions. So that was kind of neat.
Wow.
The last time I was in Japan, I was invited to visit Studio Ghibli. So that was kind of neat. It was just strange because here in the U.S., Disney Studio, you have the giant hat and all these the campus and everything. Ghibli, it's in a residential neighborhood. There's a little plant store next door.
Mitaka, yeah. For the Mitake?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know the name.
Yeah.
Where it is. But the big thing that impressed Sharon was it was right down the street from the Moe's, that fast food place.
Moe's Burgers.
Yeah, Moe's Burgers.
Yeah.
So, I don't care about the
yeah.
I want the Moe's burger.
She had like an onigiri burger.
Yeah, onigiri burger. Yeah, we both got that. It's a rice. Instead of buns, they have rice, like rice cakes, grilled rice.
Yeah. Did you get to go to the museum?
I did go to
Yeah?
the museum.
Okay.
That was fabulous. I love the
Takahazuka.
Zoetrope room with the.
Oh no, have you gone to the Tezuka Museum?
Yes,
Takahazuka,
yes.
yeah.
When we were there as guests of Tezuka, they did take us to Takahazuka,
Okay.
both to the museum and to the Takahazuka Playhouse.
I was gonna ask, did you see that? Did you watch any of the plays?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. Takahazuka is the opposite of Kabuki. Kabuki, men play all the roles. At Takahazuka, it's women who play all the roles, including the men's roles, and it was amazing the way they swagger and
It's sort of like Comic-Con.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Because it's like crazy, there's a crazy audience that they're just rabid for.
The women there, yes, they're in love with the actresses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they look like cute men, but.
Yeah, that's actually the town my grandma's from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So. Yeah, Ben and I, we actually, this is my friend Ben from Gallery Nucleus, we actually did travel all the way down over there to make
But
a
that
kind of a
Takahazuka
pilgrimage.
Museum is just fabulous. When we were there, school kids came. It was a school outing. And the first thing, there's one section with video games and all those things. The first thing they did was go to the reading library.
Mm.
And the reading library was full of kids just reading the manga.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it there. It was neat.
Right.
And the bottom, the basement was the animation studio. Did you go there?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. You could do a bit of animation. They had model sheets and everything, and you could see your work animated on screen.
Uh-huh.
And there's a
I think I did see this. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's an animatronic Dr. Tezuka would turn around and says, "Yokata."
So I think they're going to flag us down in a little bit, but we'll take a couple more questions.
In the initial conception of Usagi, what was there any mythological influence in the choice of a rabbit?
Well, was there a mythological choice in the rabbit? Well, the rabbit has always been part of Japanese folklore, and has always been the good guy. But like stories of the white rabbit and the monkey or the jellyfish. But in Usagi's case, it was a character that looked good with his ears tied up. I mean, at first, I was going to do a series inspired by the life of a real samurai named Miyamoto.
Actually, just having drawn Usagi just recently, man, that was so much fun. Because he's got so many triangles.
Yeah.
And if you're a cartoonist and you can draw triangles, it's actually really, I don't know, something about it. It feels very solid.
But actually, his head is based upon a musubi, like a rice ball. It's like a triangular shape.
Yeah. No, it's the ears especially.
Uh-huh.
They create a really good shape.
Yeah.
So it's a very good design.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I like it. All right, and okay, so how much?
You have 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay, we're good. So you guys can all ask your questions. So go ahead.
Where did Tokage come from?
Tokage. Where did Tokage come from? Tokage literally means lizard in Japanese. And I have these lizards running all around Usagi's world in that because, well, first of all, cats, dogs, rats and things, which as pets and scavengers in our world, are people in Usagi's world because, it's an anthropomorphic series. So these lizards, or Tokage, takes the place of pets and scavengers. And also, from an artistic point, they look really good on the page. If I have an empty space here, I'll just toss one of those in, and it fills up the space really nicely.
It's like furikake.
Yeah, it's
Like,
good. You
just
sprinkle
kinda
some on it. Oh, it looks good. Tastes good. But people have asked me, oh, do they really have those lizards in Japan? And I said, yeah, they're all over the place. They run around the streets, and they're like nuisance. They get hit by cars. And, oh my gosh, they have a special Tokage squad just to get them off the streets. And, But also, too, I love to draw dinosaurs. So it was just a nice way to draw these little dinosaurs.
This little one's here from trying to get it.
Oh, really? Okay,
So
yeah.
you can't see his hand.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
I noticed earlier in the volumes that it's just based on politics and wars, but around, I think, volume 4, it started going into supernatural elements. What inspired you to go into that element?
Oh, well, when I first started with Usagi, I had the choice of whether to do a historical series, a mythological series, or a combination. I chose a combination. In fact, the very first story has a lot of mythological elements in it, where it's a story of the goblin of Adachigahara, where a man commits this grievous crime against his honor and turns into a goblin. So you've got some of that there. I also like to play politics, so that's where I came up with Hikiji being the ultimate evil of his time. And Lord Hikiji is actually inspired by Date Masamune, who lived during the early 17th century Japan, where he himself wanted to be the shogun. And that's the person that my own Lord Hikiji is based on. So there's a combination of both. There's historical as well as folklore and mythological elements in there. And basically, I own Usagi, so I can do whatever I want with it. My contract with all my publishers has always been whatever I send in, they publish. They don't get to see the story until I finish. I send it into them fully inked. So so basically, they have no editorial input as far as the story goes. I'm in a wonderful situation, and I have done stories about romance, mystery. There's a whole series of mysteries that I did, and because I love mysteries, so I did a whole. I think it's called Gray Shadows or Gray something. Gray what?
You had it.
Gray Shadows? Oh, okay. And I got my favorite mystery writer, Max Allan Collins, to write the introduction to that. So that was kind of neat. Oh, one thing I should mention about the introduction writers. I've been so pleased, so proud of the people I've gotten to write introductions. Lynn Johnston, who does the strip For Better or For Worse, Alexandru Jodorowsky, the famous visionary, Sergio did one, Jack Davis did. I've just been so proud. The next one is book 28, and George Takei did the introduction. So that was kind of neat.
Okay, so we got 4 minutes, so we'll answer. Have you ask that one more question, and we'll just have closing comments, and we'll be done.
How would you rate? Who are your favorite villains?
My favorite villains in Usagi, well, first of all, the fan favorite is Jay. He's a demonic swordsman or spearman who always seems to come back. He dies and come back. And his name started off because of a bad pun. Because, Jay, first of all, there's no sound J in Japanese. It's made up. But I wanted J for a very specific reason, because in Japan, when we talk about someone, we talk, san, like Kibushi-san. It's an honorific title. So J would be J-san, like Jason from Friday the 13th, who dies and keeps coming back. So it was a bad pun, but and he's probably the fan favorite, though even though Lord Hikiji is like the big sovereign of Usagi's world.
That's actually a great piece of information, especially considering this is called Secret Origins with Stan Sakai.
And he was only going to be, Jay was only supposed to be in maybe 1 or 2 stories, but because the fan reaction